This is designed from the ground up, leveraging the flooring extension. I'm Drea Piper. A little bit about me. I'm a design supervisor at Workspace. We're based out of Iowa. We're a steel case dealer. I've been a CET user since 2018. And I actually won a CET award a couple years ago on flooring extension. So excited to talk about it. Our agenda, we're going to cover flooring extensions or floor coverings and the flooring extension and what's the difference between the two. We'll talk about renderings. We'll talk about now once we have that drawing completed and doing takeoffs from there. And then lastly, we will do install drawings. So starting with floor coverings. This is going to be located under the architectural tab in CET. And a good time to use this is when you are just wanting to use a basic floor covering, doesn't have a repeat or anything. It's a really good one to use if you're using CET's pre-saved materials. Or if you want to do a rug, whether that's a square, rectangle, or round rug, floor coverings would be a good option to use. And then basically anytime you don't need to calculate square footage or include it in your bill of materials, I do have a little asterisk there. If you're doing a rug and need to include that, there is a way to do that, but still use the floor coverings. So I will cover that later on. When you are in that floor coverings, you will have this floor properties box that you can pop up. So a few things here. You'll want to have, well, you can either show floor or no show floor with that check box. So if you don't want to have a floor at all, you can uncheck that. I advise you to have auto expand checked. This will expand the floor automatically to accommodate all objects that are placed in the drawing. So if you place a desk somewhere, that flooring is then going to expand to make sure that it's sitting underneath that piece of furniture. Extend floor, that dimension is going to be the amount that the floor will go past that piece of furniture. So default, I believe, is this 19.69 inches. You can change that to whatever dimension that you want. But you can kind of see in that image there, it's expanding past the furniture, both directions, here and here, 19.5 inches or so. And then minimum size, that dimension here, that's the smallest size of the floor, regardless of what is drawn. So if you don't have any furniture in there, it's automatically going to be whatever you have set here for minimum size. So that's flooring properties. When you get to renderings, if you're just doing like a white space rendering, I recommend keeping floor turned on just because I think it grounds the typical a little better, but I am showing a few different options here with that white space. So options 1 and 2 have a floor, but they're different materials. These are kind of some go-tos that our designers here at Workspace use. First option there is intense white. You can see it has kind of a nice shadow underneath the furniture. Again, really helps ground that typical. That's probably one of my favorites. The second option there is with the material stone 126. So it's a little shinier, reflects that furniture a little more. And then that third option, that is without a floor. So no shadows, a little more floating in space. Okay, so I'm going to hop over into CET and walk through how to draw with floor coverings. So you're going to have three options up here: the rectangle covering, circular covering, and then a custom covering. So exactly as it sounds, this is rectangle, the fastest way to create your basic rectangle covering. Just kind of click 3 clicks there, and then you have your floor. Round, this is going, or your circular is going to be round. So you can type in your radius here. To create that round covering. So that's kind of a nice round rug. And then custom covering, if you need to do kind of a unique shape, you can use that tool there. Okay, so going back to this rug example, if you need to include a rug, so we're going to use this guy here as an example. It's an 11-foot rug, which, yeah, so this is an 11-foot circular floor covering. You can create your rug as a material. I've already gone to save time. I've created that material already, but like this example here, Shaw, you can download that image and easily create that rug here. You can see in our 3D, we have that nice visual. And now to create or to include it in your bill of materials, you can right click and add catalog info. And then you can start to freeform that piece of furniture. So I'm just gonna come here quick. Our part number is G088. Do a description here, 11 by 11. Price, we'll just say it's $2,000. And then we can add that down here. And now we go to our calculations. You can see that line has been added. That's how you can make sure it is included in your bill of materials. Okay, so that's kind of high level floor coverings. Now I'm going to dive into flooring extension. So it's located under CET tabs once it's installed from the marketplace. So you do have to install this separately. When to use this guy. So when a specific install method is needed. So if it's like an ashlar or quarter turn or something like that, and you really want to show that, this is going to be the better option to use. Also, when you're creating like a unique pattern or layout, again, this is going to be what you want to use over the floor coverings, because you can kind of specifically place certain patterns and tiles. And then also when you need product included in your bill of materials. So you need to start calculating how many square feet and square yards you need. Pop back into CET. Switch here. Okay, so I'm going to start kind of diving through all of these different options here, starting all the way at the bottom, our flooring products. So you want to start off with, what product am I going to use? Under this browse tab here, you're going to have a few different options. So there's a custom folder that you can choose from. So this is anything that you create will automatically save under this custom folder. There is an essential libraries. So this is Configura's flooring that they've created. You do need to make sure that you have the catalog enabled to see those options here. So they have a few things that you can choose from. And then There's also an industry libraries. So this is any flooring manufacturer that you have, their flooring will be under that industry library. Once you do have or know which flooring you want to use, well, okay, back up. In custom, these are going to be different folders that you create when you're creating your product. So I have mine saved as the size of tile. You can kind of organize this any way you want to. So maybe it's by manufacturer, maybe it's by size, maybe it's by color, whatever is going to work best for you. But once you have those tiles created, you can go in here and add them to your palette. So anything that you want to use in this project, you need to make sure you add them to your palette by using this little plus sign. And then if you go to this little palette, those will all appear here. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to create a custom product because that's kind of the best place to start when you're working with flooring. So underneath product tools, there's this little custom products button here that will load here. Okay, so these are all my products that I already have saved. But here on the right side, this is how you're going to create a new one. So there's this little plus sign. You can create a new product. You can also, if you want to start with an existing one and copy it, you can do that as well. Under product information, you'll have type. So whether you're creating a tile or a roll, I'd say 99.9% of the time I'm creating a tile. You can go in here and create your product information. So I'm going to say this is habitat greenhouse. Code. We'll just use this guy here. Group again, so this is for me, the size of the tile, which we are doing a 9x36. Price, if you have a price, you can enter that in here. I'm just going to say it's $30. Width and length, so we were a 9x36. Material type, this is a floor carpet, but you can also choose wood, ceramic tile, or marble. And then this is where you can start to add in like a JPEG of your flooring. So you can usually get this from the manufacturer's website. You can also, if there's variation in the tiles and the manufacturer provides more than one image, you can add multiple here. So like this one has 8 different tiles saved, so we can just highlight all of them, hit open, and all of those have loaded. So once we have all our information in there, we can go ahead and hit save. Manufacturing. Okay. And now, once that saves, it will show up in our flooring products. We go to our 9x36. And then we can add it to our palette. So now we can use it in this project. So that is creating a new product. once you have that product created, you can then go and create installation patterns. So you can, again, underneath that product tools, hit edit installation patterns and stamps. The reason you will want to create your product first before creating your installation pattern is because once you create that size of tile, it will then show up underneath your available tiles here to use. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new pattern here. We have this blank space. So we're using a 9x36 rectangle. You can just drop it in here. So let's say I want to create a herringbone. So rotate here. I only need to place a couple tiles. So once I have 4-ish tiles in here, I can then go into set pattern repetition. And then I will click really any point and then start to tell it where I want that repeat to start. So now I have that herringbone pattern. Really quick, really easy. And then I can save it, whatever name I want. 9x36. Herringbone. And then save pattern. And now that if I were to save it, it would then show up underneath my custom patterns here to use. That's creating patterns. Once you have your flooring product and your pattern created, you can then go in and start to draw your floor. So similar to the floor coverings, you have the custom flooring surface, a rectangle flooring surface, and a circular. So you can create those same shapes or a unique shape with the custom. I've gone in here already to create. You have a few additional tools here as well. So there is this add point tool. So say you created a shape, but you like missed a point and now you need to kind of edit what that shape looks like. You can use this add point tool and kind of anywhere along that surface, you can add a point. And I can see instead of just a rectangle now, I have this extra point here that I can adjust my shape. Now I have that extra point that I added that I can now move around. You can also remove an edge. So say you have, I don't know, for whatever reason, want to remove this edge here, just using the edge tool, you can hover over any of the edges and then remove it. From there, if you want to, again, change or add on to that shape, we can go back to that custom flooring and pick right back up with those points. And now I've created this new shape. Slice tool. So if we wanted to cut this in half, so it's 2 floorings, we can use this slice. So we'll go midpoint to midpoint. And now I've created these 2 different floorings. There's this hole tool, or remove hole tool, but in order to use that, we have to first create a hole. So let's say I've got this flooring drawn up here, but there's a wall here that I need to create a hole. So to do that, you'll actually draw over with a flooring. So now you have 2 flooring surfaces on top of each other. CET will recognize that and have this little actions in the properties box. So you can either cut and keep, or merge. So we want to completely remove that hole and cut. So now I have this hole where that wall is. We'll say once you do create a hole, you can no longer edit your points. So make sure that flooring is set, and then you can go ahead and add in your holes. If you do need to go back and change the shape, that's what this remove holes tool is for. It will hover over your flooring, and then it will remove your hole. And then you can see my points that showed up, and I can edit it. And then the last tool here is a border tool. So if you want to easily create a border around this here, just click that and hover over your flooring. Border inset. So let's say you have a 24-inch border, you can set that here. And then again, you have 2 different flooring surfaces that you can add flooring to. So once you have your flooring drawn, you can then go in and add your installation pattern. So in your properties box, there's this little drop-down menu. There are custom options that you've created that you can use. There's also some created by Configura, and then any manufacturer that you have will have some options as well. But we're going to do a 9x36 ashlar. And then you also have the option to do a pattern angle. So this is going to come in on default, however you created your pattern. But if I want this rotated 45 degrees, it will then rotate that flooring to line 45 degrees. I'm going to just bring this guy over so you can see. We'll add a pattern to him. That's kind of interesting. We'll go 90 here. This little origin point, so this you can use and link it to other floorings in your drawing so that the pattern kind of matches up. So if we that link, you can actually link this tile or this flooring to this other flooring so that the tiles will then line up. This is kind of a bad example. Let me draw a new flooring. Okay, so this is going to be my main flooring. I'm going to do a center origin so you can see how those tiles moved. You can also adjust by moving this little yellow circle around, and it'll adjust kind of where those tiles will start. And then for this other flooring, I'm going to base it off of this first one so that the tiles kind of match up. So that is origin point. Okay, once you have your flooring installation and your pattern and origin point selected, you can then go ahead and start to paint on your flooring. So there's these different painting tools. I'm going to go down and select. We'll start with our gray here. And so there is a paintbrush, which will apply a single tile at a time. So if you're just doing really unique kind of layout that requires you to do one tile at a time, you can do that with the paintbrush. And there's also a paint bucket where you can do the entire flooring with one pattern selected. There's this line tool. So say I already have my gray in there. Now I want to go in and do my green. I can use this little roller to create a line. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. There's a single line and then an additive line. So single line, I'm going to click and hold so that you create this single line, however you want it. Or there's an additive line so that when you're clicking and holding, it's going to add that green wherever your line crosses. So you can see that it's adding. I'm going to go back to all gray. Here's okay. On this gradient tool, so that is going to gradually add that green in. You can do a linear, a radial, or an inverse radial. So linear will start at one end, click and hold, so it's gradually adding that green heavier where you started and then lighter towards the end of your cursor here. So it kind of randomly places that secondary tile. And then there's an eraser tool if for whatever reason you want to erase any of the tiles there. If you want to do random, there is a randomize tool. So you can go in here and select which flooring you want. You can set your ratio. So if you want a 1-to-1, you can leave it there. If you want maybe more of the neutral over the color, you can kind of do a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1, whatever you want. You can add in however many patterns that you want. If you need to add more than what is shown, there's this little add here. And then we'll select our flooring and apply. And you can see now that randomized the flooring. So if we do, let's say we want more green instead of more gray, and see how that changes that ratio. So that is the randomizer. There are also a couple other tile tools here. So rotate tile, this is more so, or works better if you have like a 24-by-24, which we'll just throw in here real quick. So there's this rotate tile. So right now I have it set as monolithic, but if I wanted certain tiles to be rotated, you can see it's rotating 90 degrees here with that rotate tile. There's also a cut tool. So if you wanted to cut a tile a certain way, you can use that. There are, depending on how many clicks. So your first click is going to do diagonal from bottom left to upper right. Your second click is going to be a horizontal. Third click is going to be bottom right to upper left. Fourth click is vertical up and down. And then your fifth click will remove the cut altogether. So if you do have that cut here, you can then apply, we go to our paintbrush. You can apply just to that half of that cut that you just made. And then there is a select tiles. So if you want to select multiple tiles, you can select those and then make any changes that you need to. So that is kind of drawing with the floor. Next, I want to cover Cove base. So with this, there is this edit Cove base. So similar to creating your flooring first, I highly recommend creating your Cove base first. So if you click on that edit Cove base, if you have more than one, you can add multiples. So say this is your vinyl base -1. Maybe this is your ceramic base. Maybe you have another vinyl base -2. So you can start to create those different bases here. And then once you have those created, you can go in and hit that Cove base table. So in your properties box, you can see there's an erase or an add. We haven't created any, so we're going to add first. Mode. So this is right now on segment. What that means is it's going to be kind of whatever side is highlighted on that floor. You can also do section. So you're creating, so say I only wanted like half of this to have Cove base. We can do that by section. Or the third mode is shape. So you're doing it around that whole entire flooring shape. Shape would be the fastest, and you can actually go in. So say we did our shape, and then let's go to erase section, and you can go in and erase like where your doors are. And then once you have all your Cove base added, you can go to this Cove base legend. And it will calculate how many feet you have of that Cove base. Also here is your flooring legend. So this will start to populate all the different flooring that you have in your drawing. You can filter it if you have it like tagged a certain way. So I created these tags on the different patterns I created. You can do like by product. So these are all your different filter. This is where you can start to add like the different information or hide. So say you don't want to see like number of tiles, you can hide that. Or say we want to hide gross or net. Or we want to show. With the thumbnail here, right now, this is just showing a basic color based off of the tile that I have in there. You can also show the actual texture. So that'll just pull like from your JPEG. That's flooring legend. I'm not going to go really into waste, but there are on the document, there will be kind of some information on that. So here I've got some information for you if you want to review that. Roll tools, I'm just going to do this high level. Again, I don't do roll tools that often or rolled products that often. I'm mostly working with tiles, but you can do rolled goods in CET. So similarly, you create your product with that custom products, and then when you're drawing, there's a different toolbar here that has the roll tool paint bucket. So you can select your product and then just paint it right on. It will automatically set your vertical seams based off of what the product width was when you created the product. You can move the seams with this move seam tool. So adjusting the location of the rolled seams on the flooring surface, you just kind of click and drag. where those seams will be placed. And then there's also an add seam tool. So you can add horizontal seams to the surface by using that tool here. Okay. Now I'm going to go into renderings. So one thing I like to do is create a bird's eye view of my rendering. To do this, I have a white sweep photo setup. So this is the same setup that I have for just white space renderings. I do like to include the CAD outline. And to do that, you want to make sure that your Show 2D Entities in 3D View is checked in CAD settings. And then I also advise you to change all the layers to black so that you don't have a bunch of colors with your flooring, because that can be distracting. So examples of what this can look like. These are just a few that I've done in the past. A nice bird's eye view, you can kind of see the difference between all the flooring and where it lays out. Another example. So again, just to kind of show you real quick in CET. Switch here. So I have this in a nice overall layout done. We'll go back to our photo lab. I have this white sweep photo setup. And I can see my CAD is not on. So we'll go into CPT tabs. Go into our settings. And show 2D entities in 3D. Let's go to my CAD layers. And we're just going to select all here and change to black. So now all my layers are black. My changes. Okay, now when we go into Photo Lab, there we go. Now you can see my CAD layers turned on. I have my white sweep photo setup applied, and I'm just going to try and get right over top of it, and then we can render, and then that will output a rendering similar to the examples you saw. Okay, so now what? One thing with CET, so it's it shows gross area in square feet or square meters, depending on your preferred distance unit. Gross includes the area of cut tiles outside of the flooring surface's boundaries. Another thing, calculations will show tile quantities, where most carpet is priced by square yard, and it's also sold by carton, so you're not going to be able to purchase individual tiles. And then most LVT is priced by square foot and also sold by carton. CET also does not include overage. So overage is the extra flooring material purchased beyond the exact square footage of a room. It accounts for irregularities in the space, mistakes during cutting, and unusable pieces, and then material imperfections, and then just having that extra stock for future repairs. So we are going to take the information CET gives us and calculate our square yardage and our square footage and how many cartons we need, including our overage. So one thing I did here, so I inserted my legend, and then I filtered it by each product, and then I included what my net square footage is. So that's what this number is here. In my calculations, I then went in and changed my quantity to match up to my square footage. So instead of the tiles or number of tiles, which is in parentheses here, I now am showing quantity of square footage per pattern. From there, I'm then going to export to Excel. So in that file, there's this little beta Excel export. And then you can save it wherever. And then once you have it exported, it is going to look like this. So I have my quantity and I have my part number. This is the information that I'm going to use. From there, I actually have a template for flooring takeoffs. This is what it looks like. So I'll have my quantity. This is my square footage that I'm getting from CET, my part number, description, and then we'll start to calculate our square yardage because carpet is typically sold by square yard. You can see my calculation here. We're taking our quantity here and dividing by 9 to get square yardage. Next, we're going to calculate our overage. So I like to do 10% as kind of a standard. So it's taking whatever our square yardage is and multiplying that by 1.1. This square yards carton, it's red because this is information that you'll have to put in. You can often find this on manufacturers' websites. So if we go back to that habitat tile under specs, they have area per carton is 45 square feet per carton. So once we get to that, we'll add that in, and then it's going to calculate the cartons needed. And then based off of how many cartons you need, it's going to give you total yardage for the project. So I will give you a quick example here. We'll do this one here. So I'm going to copy. I'm going to copy this information. And we'll go over to our template here and paste it in. There we go. So now it's doing my calculation. 633 square feet is equivalent to 70.33 square yards. We're adding in our 10% overage, so that puts us at 77. We had 45 square feet per carton, so that is 5 square yards. So we'll enter in that number there, and now it's telling us we'll need 16 cartons total because it's going to round up to an even number of cartons. So then we need 80 or calculate 80 total yards for the project. So that's nice, really easy. Once I have all my total yardage, I can then send that off to my manufacturer to quote and order from there. Very similar process for like tile or LVT, only we don't have to convert it to square yards. So if we go back here, we have, this is a ceramic tile. So copy that information. So we're just adding our overage right from our number here instead of converting. And then square foot per carton, I'm just going to say it's, I don't know, 25. I'm not going to go and look it up. So this is going to then calculate our total cartons needed and our total square footage. That's not the yardage, square footage. So that's a nice, easy way to calculate your takeoffs. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to just talk briefly on install drawings. So when you're doing install drawings, under the visibility settings, there is an install mode to use. So it's just called install. And it's under the default view modes here. And this will show the directions of the tiles. I encourage you to include a plan and a legend in color for your installer so they can easily see what tile is what. And then add any notes where needed. So For example, if you're doing a random install, 50% of carpet A, 50% of carpet B, that's a good note to include. Go back to CET, into our paper. So you can see here, I have my overall plan in color with the legend that shows what is what, and as it relates back to that cover. If I zoom in here, you can see there's a little arrow to show direction of the tile. So that they're all facing the right direction. And then I've also done individual pages here. So this is just of this habitat and suspend. And it's showing in my notes, installation method is ashlar. Carpet 1 is Shaw habitat path. Carpet 2 is Shaw suspend path. And then randomly installing 50% and 50% of carpet 1 and carpet 2. So I've done a page for each of those different flooring types. And that is installation drawings. That's all I have. If you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out. But that is my contact information there. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this session and feel more confident when using the flooring extension.